Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Got an interesting guest for you today, Mr. Joel Martinez. Mr. Martinez has traveled the world spreading the joy of dance and done other cool stuff. Had him in class. Super excited to have a cool conversation about what life's brought him. And as always, these podcasts are brought to you by Gunfighter Gun Oil, the finest lubricant for your gun. Keep it wet. Joel.
What's going on, Mickey? How are you?
Nice to see you again. We met in South Florida this year. Had a good time at class with you.
That was fun, man. That was over in Homestead, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool, man. I was really excited. I had booked my spot for the class like 2 weeks out. Good buddy of mine who's a mentor to me up here, Kyle Thompson of Cover Year 6. He put me on. He's like, yo, Mickey's coming down. He does this class. Like, we should go down and take it. I was like, say no more. We out.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Good class.
You and I started chatting. I actually challenged you to a dance-off. And you're like, anytime, any place. And I'm like, man, this guy, is he calling my bluff? And then we got to talking, and you're legitimately a professional breakdancer.
Yeah. I've been breakdancing since 1994. The group that I'm a part of, we're called Skillz Methods with a Z. And hence my new LLC for firearms training, Technical Methods. I go by Teknyc in the dance world, and in the graffiti world, spelled TEKNYC.
That's so like your name in that world?
That's like my Bboy name and graffiti artist name. And I wanted to incorporate both names because, I've spent over 25 years, developing my name, my craft, and our reputation in the community has been extremely positive in terms of our contribution to the dance, right? So if you take those two words, technical and methods, it definitely applies to firearms training when it comes to the fundamentals and what it is that we want to achieve as we continue to get better. If we applied technical applications and the methods of the fundamentals, it all allows you to achieve a greater end result as we continue to train,
Right on.
Yeah.
So what struck me as interesting, so you're a good dancer. You somehow ended up working for the United States government as a breakdancer.
Right. So back in 2011, leading into 2012, mind you, again, I've been dancing since 94. My crew Skillz Methods established in 95. I had already traveled all over the world in the dance competition. It's massive. A lot of people don't know. Breakdancing this year has just been inducted into the Olympics. So breakdancing is going to be an official
Wait a
sport.
second. Breakdancing is an Olympic sport now?
100%. You'll get
is it going to ruin it like judo, where like it's now? No.
Look, there's purists that have an issue with that, right? I'm of the thinking of this. My crew, again, has a great reputation in that we've preserved the integrity of the dance by doing it in the true way, in the true form. The way I feel about it is the new kids, they're having a different experience. How could any of us, the older guys, and even the OGs, the guys, the originators, how could we stop the young kids to being able to achieve winning a gold medal at the Olympics through breaking? So when we go back to talking about my work as a U.S. cultural ambassador, if I were to have the stance that is like, that's kind of like saying like keeping it real. The Olympics is not keeping it real. That will contradict the work that I've done as an ambassador of the arts throughout the world in teaching the youth a way to make something of themselves by following their passions, right? The new generation having the opportunity to go to the Olympics, that is a phenomenal opportunity, and it will not affect those who are purists, underground, if you will. That world is always going to continue to live.
I guess my thought about the Olympics, and I don't want to sidetrack your point. For those of you that are watching this, don't get upset. I was on my phone. There's somebody at the door, and I was looking at him on the camera, telling him to go away. It's when you try to take something that's an artistic expression and then quantify it with zeros and ones and like weightlifting. Either you picked up the weight or you did not. I don't care what pants you're wearing. I don't care what
right.
what your haircut looks like, what color your skin is. You lifted it or you didn't. Running, the clock doesn't lie. But when it's something artistic,
yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I do think that in terms of judging who wins, there are issues. It's not perfect. And how is the Olympics going to decide a winner when, again, this is a very organic, a soulful thing. So my whole thing is it made it. There was work that was done by many people to allow for it to get there, to prove that it can be an Olympic sport. All that given, we have to outweigh the pros and the cons. I think let it go in with where it's at right now, and whatever things we may have an issue with as it happens, we can adjust that. But I'm not one to prevent the youth from having such a great opportunity, and again, like that type of judgment, the way that we judge it in the scene is gonna be judged by B-boys and B-girls judging and determining, like, so-and-so had a
what's
moment
a
where
B-boy and a B-girl? You're talking to
All
a
right.
kid from the middle of farmland.
My bad. So the term breakdancing was a term given by the media. That's not the proper term for our dance. B-boy means break boy or break girl. Break, the word break in it talks about the break of a record. So James Brown in our community is considered like the first breakdancer because his records were the most influential records, which make kids from the Bronx, where hip hop was created. Once the drummer started going that part of the record and James Brown's doing all his little footwork,
get on up,
boom, exactly. So the term came out called B-boy, either Bronx boy or Bronx girl or break boy or break girl, meaning they dance to the break of the record. The media got a hold of it and they're like, break dancers. Like, nah, that's just 86. That's not what we call it. But we understand why people call it. So to have a fair conversation, smoother, we'll say like, all right, break dancing. But that's not our term.
Just to not have to re-educate idiots.
Right.
So back to 2011, 2012. You've traveled the world. You're with your group. You guys have won competitions. And what were you doing in 2011 before you got hooked up with the State Department?
Right. So leading to, between 94 and 2011, I've been doing competitions. I was living in New York City for about 15 years up until that time. In 2011, I moved to LA. I've been going after commercials, movies, doing a lot of theater work, and just gigs in between time. And in the meantime, there's a lot of work when they hire break dancers to kind of just be the hype people for a situation, a world tour of an artist or a performance. You get a couple of B-boys and B-girls in the back doing backflips, spinning on their backs, spinning on their heads. That's just gonna make it dope. You know what I'm saying? So I've been traveling the world with a theater company out of Philadelphia called Rennie Harris Pure Movement. Rennie Harris is a legendary dancer he's actually Dr. Rennie Harris. He got a doctorate in dance, dance history. And his company put in for this opportunity to travel as U.S. cultural ambassadors with the State Department. And it was in conjunction with Brooklyn Academy. And so, long story short, we got the opportunity to travel overseas. We went to Egypt, Israel, Palestine, and on behalf of the United States. Yeah, on behalf of the United States, we were there as goodwill ambassadors and U.S. cultural ambassadors, teaching teaching kids at-risk youth, and traveling with ambassadors and armored vehicles into these kind of rough sides of towns. My YouTube channel, there's a couple of documented videos of our travels, and it was phenomenal. I mean,
what is the YouTube channel?
It's Teknyc, Teknyc.
How long have you had that? It seems like somebody would have picked that up.
Oh, I've had that channel for over 10 years now.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you're traveling around. People see this American that's there to teach them something cool, and you're passing on goodwill and good skills with a Z. See how I did that there?
Yeah. Good skill methods.
Yeah, I'm just playing with you. Can you make money dancing?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, can you? Yes. Can you do it long term? You have to be very savvy in how you approach the business side of it. But I'll give you an example. I did a commercial for Sony long ago. This is back in, I want to call it 2002. It was a national commercial. I was a breakdancing Santa Claus. It was during the holidays. And I got paid $2,000 for the shoot, but then I was getting residuals every time it aired. Cool. So over time, I might have made, by the time the holidays were over and I kept accumulating money, probably around $35,000. That was awesome. That was just one thing, right? There's dancers that have gone on tour with Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber and so and so, and they've made six figures in a 1 year tour, doing the choreography and, like I said, coming in the back and just doing their thing.
It's super physical.
Extremely.
Have you had any injuries? What do you do? Because you're not.
Oh yeah.
To keep yourself in good dancing condition.
Yeah, breakdancing is probably the toughest on our bodies of all dances. Not taking anything away from other dances, because there are injuries that come with
you just said that other dancers are pussies, is what you just said.
I mean, you said that, but anyway, for me, my last and most recent injury through dance is a torn bicep.
That's pretty significant.
Okay? Extremely significant. My right ACL had to be replaced. I tore my ACL, so then they had to take it from my hamstring and put it back together. I came back from that super strong. I had a fracture on my fifth metatarsal on my left foot. That took ages because there's no blood flow down there. So I had a cast up to my knee for about, 4 months. Wow. And, you get tweaks. You tweak your neck out of doing head spins or whatnot, but the passion, the love that we have for this dance and the community, our community is beautiful. The fellowship that we have, the competitiveness is unreal, and being able to see over time through training how we excel is very addictive too. Like you try a move, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go for my head spins. Nobody knows how to continuously spin on their heads. You start and you're like crashing on your back, and then over time you're like, dude, I'm straight up spinning on my head with no hands. Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? That's like it's pretty remarkable. And here's what's really cool. Like,
how many rotations can you do on your head?
Countless.
Well, I mean, at some point you run out of rotation.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is that then you connect it to another spin move and you continue to spin. So you go from your head to your back to your shoulder. You'll push yourself up and you're spinning on one arm, on one hand.
Does this hurt your head? Does this like wearing holes in your scalp?
What it does, it burns a little bit on the top, so then like hair doesn't grow there anymore. Luckily for me, I'm completely bald, so it's kind of cool. I'm like aerodynamic and shit.
That's funny. But go ahead.
But really quick, let me say this. So B-boys, breakdancers, and B-girls, we've taken moves that are traditional to Olympians, the Thomas Flair, and we've created our own, which is called the Airflare. You guys pull it up after the podcast. Look up breakdancing Airflare. It is the closest Yeah, look it up. It is the closest thing to a human levitation without any cords, any jetpacks. So we took the Thomas flare, which typically would be done on the pommel horse on the floor. We could do that on the ground, right? And now we're going up and we're doing a flip off our hands. Our entire body is now going in a clockwork position. We're going in a perfect circle, just off of one hand, doing a full 360 continuously. And then once again, from there, there's B-boys that will do 15 of those. And then after that, they'll go down to their back and do the windmills, go to the head spin. When Drew punches in the footage, he's going to run into some crazy shit. You guys will be really impressed. And then it'll make sense why it's in the Olympics now in 2020.
Who's the best that ever lived? Who's the best B-boy that ever lived?
There's different styles. There's like,
as far as difficulty, like pure raw, holy shit, that is so hard.
I'll get in trouble for saying, but I'll name a few of my personal
what your
inspirations.
You make your choices based on what other people have to say?
No, absolutely not. But you have to be mindful because of the
That's
effort
literally
that
what I just heard. You literally just said, I will get in trouble because I'm concerned what people think about my.
Fair enough. All right, so I'll say some of the top B-boys that ever lived that are extremely influential to me. Ken Swift, who's pictured right here by Doze Green. This is a caricature of Ken Swift. B-boy that goes simply by Ivan, the urban action figure. This is like, that dude to me, he's like Wolverine. He's unreal. He's amazing. One of my crewmates in Skill Methods, his name is Bboy Louie. Younger guy, has been able to combine.
Do me a favor, try not to say because Drew has to beep it out for YouTube.
Oh, yeah, my fault.
It's all right. No, I should have told you. I mean, we swear, but the more we say, the more Drew has to go beep, 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 beep.
All right.
Sorry.
So Bboy Louie, he's one of the younger members in my crew, Skill Methods, and definitely one of the most influential of all time, even at his young age. Another crew member, Bboy Venom, Bboy Abstract. These are all guys in my crew. Bboy Flea Rock. All these guys are the embodiment of all the things that make up breaking as a whole. There are different elements to being a complete B-boy or B-girl. To me, these people that are mentioned embody all of it, like from A through Z.
I wish I could be a B-boy. What would my B-boy name be?
That'd be interesting.
Wait, I got it. One of my friends' sons was busting my nuts at the jiu-jitsu gym, and he named one of the other dads. His name was Derek the Crusher, and my name was Mick Creamy. So I could be B-boy Mick Creamy.
Mick Creamy. That's kind of a dope name. Hey, here's some.
It's actually on my locker, Mick Creamy.
Mick Creamy. That's funny. Imagine that, like on the back of your shirt, like Mick Creamy in the house. Your businesses will be finished after that.
That's funny.
Hey, now that you mentioned jiu-jitsu, I can't think of these guys' names. They're out of the West Coast. There's these two brothers that are from our community, and they've become just incredible in jiu-jitsu. And
Diaz brothers?
Man, it's not the Diaz brothers. I'll find them. I'll find out who they are. But these guys are, and they say, like a lot of trainers say, there's many B-boys that have entered the jiu-jitsu platform and they're just crushing people, bro, because of their foundation from breaking, their understanding of it, rolling on the ground, they're just kill it.
Yeah, you'd have an amazing amount of body awareness and strength, and there's tons of muscles that are being used for strange body movements that an average person doesn't do or use. Can you do a lot of push-ups?
I can, actually. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Can you do a lot of one-arm push-ups?
No, I don't try to be like Rocky. I mean, especially with this busted bicep.
Well, you got another arm, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can. I haven't tried to do the Rocky Rambo one-arm push-up thing.
Has that bicep screwed up your shooting?
Oddly enough, no.
Good. I want to go
I
back
mean,
to the go ahead. No, you were talking.
No, I was gonna say my apologies. I give a big shout out to Kyle Thompson. He's a mentor to me. Most recently, leading to me getting my certification as an instructor, I took a couple classes from Kyle, and I took his marksmanship course. And I want to say that applying those techniques and fundamentals through that class, it definitely helped me develop it took my skills to another level. So it does answer your question whether my bicep affected me, because through my training, my investment in training to become an instructor myself, I still see myself excelling in shooting, although I have a torn bicep. And so that I think that's a testament to all of us in the gun community applying the fundamentals, training, and really applying. Just go down always to your 7 fundamentals. We have a saying in my crew. It is kind of the motto of our crew, and this applies to all our forms. Foundation is the key to creativity. And it's not only creativity, foundation is the key to excelling at anything. Right. So, I mean, we've talked about the breakdancing stuff. Obviously, I've been in shooting, but I've been a graffiti artist for a long time. I'm also a mixologist. And
is a graffiti artist a nice way of saying a criminal?
No, it's not. Because it's not. In part, yes.
I just have fun. I was busting your nuts last month, and it's funny the way I know that you're painting things in a legal fashion, but it's fun how things that used to be criminal in nature can be turned into a legitimate art.
Turn a negative to positive, and that's most of the work that we do as U.S. culture ambassadors or as teachers in our community. Is we teach kids how to take the passion that they have for either graffiti or breakdance, or if they have both, and combine it and make something out of themselves. So, for example, my logo for my LLC in firearms, designed by an extremely famous graffiti artist, Ewok, like the Star Wars movie. Myself, I have my own little bit of podcast where I interview breakers and graffiti artists and DJs. I designed my own mug. The show is called The Coffee Break, but cool. I passed this on to the kids and saying, you could take that, what you want to do, and vandalize something, learn Photoshop, everything you do on paper, go ahead and scan it, take a photo, and put out a coffee mug. Design your own clothing brand, like sell paintings. So it's how we apply the energy. And us as elders in our community, we need to instill in the youth that these things that are in society deemed as like, oh, these guys are hoodlums, or they're out there up to no good. They can actually turn that into something extremely positive, and it could be life-changing for them. Now, with firearms is the same thing. In hip hop, guns have always been present in a very negative way. You know what I mean? Like gangster rap, it's all about basically crime, most of it. There is positive hip hop. People don't really lean on that stuff. So
was any of that an influence in your life as a young man? Gang violence, things like that?
No, I was never part of a gang.
I'm not saying were you part of a gang. I'm saying was that stuff that you were exposed to in the community that you were in, or were you guys like the good kids that were just off dancing, being positive?
Yeah, no, I was definitely exposed to that, but I want to say that my interest in breaking definitely took me to a different angle, the competitive platform, like getting together with other like-minded peeps in the community who wanted to train and get better at breaking. So it pulled me away from what could have led to being interested in being a thug and keeping it real, which existed. I knew other cats like that. I knew of gangs that other friends of mine who weren't interested in breaking, they went that route. So it was right next to me. It was in close proximity. But because of breaking, I was, it allowed me to focus on something that was positive, something that was competitive. It made me healthy physically. It made me healthy mentally, spiritually, to be honest with you, because again, the camaraderie and being positive, seeing your improvement through hard work. It sounds cliche, bro. I know it sounds like I'm being all whatever, but it's the truth. And it's been the truth for many, many young people.
Well, I don't think it sounds cliche. I mean, what you're talking about is the same as martial arts or sports. It's the practicing of a craft and applying yourself to, it could be soccer, it could be freaking gardening, but the study of whatever subject matter it is and applying yourself to it with dedication. And there's a pure kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's cathartic.
Right.
You know, we get so bombarded with so much stuff. Like, I'll never be a breakdancer. I think I probably could be like somebody that could learn some moves, but I don't have the time, the desire, the energy. And so what's cool to me is there's so many different things, but like we're so bombarded by stimuli that it's hard for us just to like pick a thing to like get good at, like the art behind you or what you're doing. I think that's like kind of more of how the world once was. Hell, we were named after the things that we did. Like, people were named because they shoed horses or they were blacksmiths or whatever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I'm one of definitely live by the mentality that is what do they say, like master of none. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely a master of oneself. You know, like I'm constantly wanting to learn new things.
What have you learned lately that has stood out to you? Doesn't have to be dancing or firearms. It could be anything. What have you learned lately that's been cool?
During the pandemic, when the quarantine started, I've been doing my art strictly off a pen and paper, right? Like sketching whatever thing I want to achieve on a canvas or on a wall. And I never actually learned how to use Photoshop, which is very beneficial to an artist to be able to execute things like this. So during quarantine, I really piped down and I utilized that time to learn a program called Procreate, which I can use on my iPad with a little Apple Pencil. And I just piped down, bro. And I was so hyper focused that I think inside of a week, I was able to make this design.
That's cool.
And learn it. And then, because I've been doing this little podcast, if you will, on Instagram, interviewing people in my community, then I put out the coffee mugs. And I think I sold like over 200 of them.
That's awesome.
You know what I'm saying? So now, since then, people have commissioned me to do graphic design work for their t-shirts or their brand. And it's something that it took me 2 weeks to really focus on and learn something that I didn't know that was it is an extension of what I love to do, and it's helped me greatly with now designing. Like I do custom canvases for customers, like one-off names. Can I step away for a second? I want to show you something real quick.
Of course.
All right. So one of the many things I do is for over 10 years, I've been doing custom canvases for people, one of a kind, hand painted. I've taken what we do on murals, and I've been offering that to people who want to either buy something for themselves or for a loved one. And my angle to kind of make it my own was, if when you buy one of these, it comes with a certificate of authenticity. It says that this canvas is the only one in the world with your name on it, and there will never be another like it. It's my commitment to that person's investment. So this is one that I'm working on right now. It's not finished yet. It's for a new baby boy named Marcelino. The mother and father, they're a couple that are very involved in the dance community, and they just had their firstborn. So they commissioned me to do this, right? Like, when it's done, I'll sign it and they'll get this certificate of authenticity. And I want to show you one that is actually finished that I have to ship out. So this is for a young girl. Her name is Nola. Her uncle commissioned me to do it. So this is a finished canvas.
That's awesome.
The background is done with spray paint, and everything here, that's all done by hand with acrylic brush and acrylic markers. There's my tag, if you will, my signature. And again, it'll be shipped out with a certificate of authenticity. You know what I mean? So
I like it. So how do people find you to commission you?
Instagram is the best way to find me, at Teknyc, TEKNYC. And then they can just send me a direct message, tell me what they're interested in terms of dimension, and the price changes based on dimension. But again, what's cool about this is I always tell people art is an investment. And here you are buying a one of one. There'll never be another one like it. And it has a certificate of authenticity signed and numbered by me.
One of one.
One of one.
Well, you could be like Picasso one day. I might have to get me one or two of those.
I got you. I got you.
We were. I like the. I always enjoy talking to people that excel at anything. And what I found, be it, I've got friends that are professionals in business, in medicine, in sports, in dancing, in firearms, and it's regardless of the endeavor or the course of study or the hobby or whatever it is, it's all the same for the most part, mindset and concepts that drives those people to a high standard or a high level of skill in that field. Like nobody becomes an Olympic anything that's not completely freaking obsessed with what they're doing,
Right.
And I'm not
Absolutely.
interested in being obsessed with something. That does not interest me. There's too many cool things in the world to be like so obsessed with one, but some people are. I think it's cool to be able to like look at that and then apply it. Like, how did you get to be the best swimmer or the best dancer? Well, I literally, like, I bet you didn't say, hey, I worked out like 45 minutes a week and I'm this good. How much did you dance as a young man?
Man, a lot. We would spend no less than 4 hours training. We go to like a local community center and they would straight up have a 4 hour time slot until they close. And we're there like practicing, going one after another, just playing music and trying out the same move over and over. And then we do it.
How many days a week?
About 3 to 4 times a week.
All right, so you're putting in 12 to 16 hours a week. So you're literally putting in a work week a month of physical exercise. I've got friends that are really experienced jiu-jitsu guys that have excelled in competition, that they're 40, 60 hours a month like that on the mat, which you hear it, you're like, okay, 40, 60 hours. But it's like, well, that's like taking a whole week off of your job and just going to do that. And then when it's something physical like that, it's not like you're practicing chess or like something on the computer. You get hurt.
Imagine this. When I graduated high school in 95, the high school I went to in Tampa, Jefferson High School, all 3 years of high school, I studied welding. It was this kind of like a tech high school. They had an entire building dedicated to mechanics. They had an entire building dedicated to, I think, woodwork, and they had an entire welding facility. So my senior year of high school, companies will come, and my teacher, Mr. Mills, he would put us on to companies that were hiring welders. So out of high school in 95, I had a job with a company called Chromalloy Castings. I was welding turbine components. So they would do the casting, they will come through our department. And this is like precision welding, where things would have to get buffed and then x-rayed. If there were any cracks, you got to drill it out and do it again. These were called like baffles and all the small parts, slightly bigger parts. So I was working about 60 hours a week as a welder, helmet buried in these little, welding with 20th of an inch welding rods, doing all of it, MIG, TIG, oxyacetylene, and plasma torch. And then outside of that, when I get done with work, go straight to practice breakdancing. We got so good at the breakdancing stuff that eventually I gave my 2 weeks notice at Chromalloy Castings to pursue dance. And I ended up traveling the world, doing commercials. I did a couple of films, like as a dancer, Step Up 3D, Battle of the Year. These are all feature films. But it took for me to do both. It wasn't just like quit my job and I'm just going to dance. It's a sacrifice.
You still had to eat and pay the rent in the interim. Yeah,
that's
right. I think that's a hard one for people to swallow sometimes, because you want to taste the taste, as Nacho
that's
says.
That's the one. A lot of artists, they just want to do the art and live the art life. But hey, listen, the bills are still due on the first, man. And even to this day, with everything I do, I have a job. I'm still a bartender, you know, mainly because I enjoy it. Not only that it's a job, I enjoy because I do have a goal of one day owning my own bar or restaurant. I'm very passionate about that, the hospitality
Yeah, you and I
industry as
talked
well.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the
What kind of
part that I
food?
try to, right now I work at a Mexican restaurant. It's a mezcaleria. And but I've worked at so many different places, but
What kind of
I
place do
definitely
you
have
want to own?
I want to open up a bar restaurant in Puerto Rico where I was born and raised, and I want to do like a yakitori, Japanese yakitori place, because there's a need for that on the island, and I think that cuisine, it's almost similar to Puerto Rican food in terms of it being like fresh veggies on the skillet, you know, good meat, fish, beef, chicken, all, you know, nicely seasoned. The presentation, the rice obviously is going to be there, and just have a phenomenal cocktail program to go along with it. I think that, I have an entire plan for it. I'll share it with you when we're done. I want to share with you my business plan.
I like
for
it.
that.
I like
Yeah.
it. Talk more about, you're pretty passionate when I met you, talking about how you can use art to affect young people. Talk more about that.
Look, young people, we were young at once and we're impressionable.
I'm still young.
Yep. Yeah, me too, man.
I
But the
found a
younger
gray,
people,
I found a gray hair on my arm this morning.
dude, look at my
Oh
beard.
yeah, face. I'm used to them here. I'm starting to find them everywhere. Go ahead.
But you know, the youth has this amazing energy that if they don't have mentorship to guide that energy in the right direction, it can oftentimes just be sporadic, and it could go everywhere, all over the place. So I think by being a mentor to young people through the arts, it allows them to see their potential and what they could do, but not be like an old dude telling them like, oh, you get a job, do this thing. It's like, you have to speak the language that they speak and let them know that apply that energy, that thing, that interest that you have, and like really focus and carve at it. Anything that the world, our country, people don't understand this hip hop community because they're constantly being fed one version of hip hop, the flashy, you know, all the negative aspects of it, right? There's this other part, the fundamental essence of hip hop is all the elements that every culture has fundamentally: dance, art, fashion, right? And language, vernacular, how we speak, how we function every day. That's hip hop. Those elements are MCing, aka rapping, MC, master of ceremony, graffiti, that's the art that every culture has, dance, obviously every culture has dance, and you know, DJing, you know what I mean? The DJs, the disc jockey that provide the music for us to dance to. Most people don't know the fundamentals of hip hop and why the youth gravitate towards it. It's taking them and saying, yeah, that exists over there, that flashy stuff, the mogul, the whatever, the negative parts of hip hop. But there's this other really cool thing that's very influential to the world: fashion, obviously music. Hip hop is the biggest genre of music. It is all over the world. With graph, there's a museum of graffiti in Miami currently. Graffiti, there's street art, now they call it street art. There's street art festivals all over the world. It's all graffiti, bro. All the big, Supreme is a massive street art fashion brand. It's all graffiti oriented. So imagine if all these kids, wherever their energy lied, whether it was music, art, dance, producing music, work at it in the positive aspect of it. That is to me, that is what I hope to instill in the youth. And by doing so, they can turn a negative into positive, and we have better, we have a better society as a whole. It's a small part of society, but it's a big contributor to us having a better society as a whole. We have to understand the youth. In hip hop, the youth leads the way. We have to listen to what is their experience? What are they going through? What do they want to express themselves in a certain way? Why are the rhythms changing? Why are the dance styles changing? Why is the art form changing?
It's an interesting concept. Most people, by the time they're our age, you say, no, shut the f up. You're the kid. I'm the adult. You're going to do what I tell you. And it's comical because it's probably as old as mankind, where eventually that kid becomes your my age and older and looks back and says, geez, like, I wasn't going to listen to anybody. Why would I expect them to listen to me? And then we have all of these amazing changes in culture that ebb and flow. Some of them good, some not. But yeah, that's an interesting. So you're literally saying, rather than directing what they should be listening to or liking or anything like that, listen to it and work within the parameters of it.
Absolutely. We have to invest in our youth. If any gripes that we have let's just speak about our country for a second, not to get political. Any gripes that we have about the direction in which we're going. Why can't you get political? I personally don't like discussing politics because it could be healthy, but it could be divisive as well, right? That's the current state that we're in. So me personally, I don't discuss politics.
All right.
But nonetheless, let's touch it here on the surface level. A lot of the divisiveness that we have, that is a real thing. A lot of the gripes that we have in the direction in which the country is going, we're not listening to the youth. Again, it's a small fraction of a bigger thing, but we are not focusing on the youth. The youth is going to continue to grow. They're going to become the next doctors, judges, police officers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. If we invest in our youth and we listen to them, they're having an experience that we think we understand what it is. We're not listening to what it is that they need to say. So communication is key at all times. We have to leave room to listen to someone's experience and why they're saying a thing that they're saying. At a glance, we could be like, I disagree with that. But listen, even if at the end you disagree, if we take time to listen, we all become better. We all become better. I wanted to share something with you. You had a post that I saw recently where you spoke about the couple out in Cicero, Illinois, that it was kind of like, oddly enough, my wife, she's here. Big shout out to my wife, Krista. She's reading a fantastic book on, can I see that book, baby, really quickly? She just took it because she's finishing reading it. But I want to say about 2 weeks before you made that post, my wife, there he goes. Yeah. So my wife read me a segment of this book that talks about that same case.
Yeah, it was big stuff, but history remembers it, but people don't like that kind of history.
Exactly. So I'm gonna give this back because I know she's reading while we're doing this.
Let me see the title of the book again. Who's the author?
So she was reading this book, and out of nowhere she says, "Hey, let me read this. I just finished reading this. Listen to this." And then, dude, like a week and a half later, you had your post. And I think my point to that is that oftentimes when it comes about opportunities in any community, any folks of any background, I think one of the universal messages is like, if you pull yourself by your bootstraps, you're going to make it. Dude, I pull myself by my bootstraps. I apply myself all the time. Many people do, of all backgrounds. There are things that we need to read and understand that have been put in place that make it slightly difficult sometimes to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And when I saw your post and you read this history of a couple that worked hard and simply wanted a place to live, but their community did not accept them. They worked hard. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. Everything, they did everything by the book. So oftentimes, it's not that people don't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. It's that they're met with challenge when they do so. But we need to grow and excel as a country together and understand that people have different experiences. So that goes back to the youth. The youth of all backgrounds, they're also having an experience.
I think the challenge is like, you know, that book, I'm sure that book talks a lot about, I haven't read it, but it, based on what I'm seeing there, I'm sure it talks a lot about what happened after the New Deal with Roosevelt, you know, all of the segregation of banks and housing, that all came about from Roosevelt, who was supposed to be this super liberal-minded guy that was like for the people. And all the redlining that happened in neighborhoods where people of color couldn't move past certain streets and shit, that all came in the 1930s. My point is this. It's like every time government gets involved, government's still people. So like, I don't like, and you didn't say this, but people talk about it like government's like this, you know, entity, like some smoky voice up in the sky. It's still people. It's your neighbor. It's the guy down the street. It's the gal from across town. It's still humans. So like what happened there in Chicago, for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, this was just an interesting discussion point of something horrific. And the reason I brought it up in a post that I put out was because people are looking at what's happening in the world right now, and they're like, it never was like this. And it's like, actually, it's way nicer now than we used to be. Because in 1951, this family, Harvey Clark and Jonetta Clark, tried to move to Cicero, Illinois, which I've got friends there. It's not a very nice place now. It used to be. It's actually kind of a dump. Pardon me if you live there. But the 4,000 people showed up, burned their freaking building to the ground, threw their piano out the window. The sheriff ran them off, and they weren't allowed to live in the apartment because they didn't want people of color there. And there's tons of stories like that. 1919, I believe, or I think it was 1919 in Chicago, a kid put a raft in Lake Michigan. There was an imaginary line of black people on this side of the beach, white people on this side of the beach. His raft drifted into the white people's side. Mom started throwing rocks at him. They hit him in the head. He fell into the water and drowned. Like, that was just normal stuff. And so like it's, you can't make laws that make people not feel that way. We already have laws that you can't throw rocks at people. We have laws that you can't burn people's houses down, but people do that shit anyway because they hate it. Yeah. It's the bootstrap thing, though. I think, though, that people, I think it goes both ways. Like, everybody has something that's conspiring against them. And no matter what, there are people, like, I have friends who had like really good families, really good access to education. Hey, mom, dad, I need to borrow $10,000 for a car loan or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that don't have access to that. And I think too often people that do have access to, even, you know, $10,000 isn't a lot of money unless you don't have $10,000. Then it could be the difference between getting a home or getting a car or fixing your car so you can keep going to work. And I think for a lot of people that dismiss the concept of equality, they don't think about it from that perspective. I'm not preaching to you. I'm just talking to the listeners. But
for sure. Yeah,
I mean, I barely have an education beyond like grade school. But I mean, I have a high school diploma, but I'm a high school graduate, but it was like a, you know, it was a joke.
Yeah, I'm a high school graduate. I never went to college. I've just, pull myself up by my bootstraps and just follow my passion and do everything I do to the highest degree of integrity. You know, I was raised by a single mom who is a retired police officer in Puerto Rico. It's a very tough place. you know, and she instilled the values of hard work, dedication, fellowship, family, honor, you
Good
know,
stuff.
good, all the good stuff, you know. Some people have that and still fail. They don't, you know, people are people. Again, man, I know, you know, it may
Life is
sound
hard. Nobody said there's not some monument somewhere that says all of you should have a great life. I couldn't sleep last night, and I don't know why. I researched weird stuff, so I started researching all of the outbreaks of polio in America. You know, and the reason I was looking at it is because everybody nowadays is freaking out about the vaccine for COVID. I don't want to talk about it, but you know, in 1950, there was kids that couldn't walk anymore, couldn't freaking ended up on canes the rest of their life, or died from a very easily vaccinated disease once the vaccine became known. And like now we don't think about it, but man, there were whole towns where kids were being brought into the hospital and they couldn't do nothing for them. And
that's right.
Go ahead.
1992, my junior high school, the school that I attended to when my family migrated to Tampa from Puerto Rico, I had a classmate whose father got polio in 1992.
Yeah, Africa, there's still huge outbreaks of it. And I don't know where I was going with that. I know where I was going with it. We all want a good life. It's not owed to us. Kids get polio and die. People have, and I'm not trying to be a hard ass, but in some sense, the discussion about like pulling yourself up from the bootstraps and having this inequality in starting points, shit happens. And you can spend your time also fixating on the inequality, or you can like go do something. So like I've got this, like my philosophy of life is one thing always leads to another. And like you selling coffee mugs, if you didn't sit down and say, I want to figure out how to use this $1,000 little TV screen that I can write on, it wouldn't have happened. Well, must be nice because I don't have an iPad. Well, I had to go mix drinks to buy the iPad. You know, like one thing you have to like kind of step into the arena or whatever it might be, and whatever happens, you know, that you see an opportunity, you jump on it. Maybe it, you know what I'm saying? Like
I for sure.
Life is it's a series of choices. We make good ones, we make bad ones, we continue on.
There's this comment. So again, look, turning our negative to a positive. In hip hop, there's this whole thing, a hustler mentality, the hustler. That comes.
I don't like that mentality.
Well, let me tell you the negative to positive. Hustler, obviously by definition, is a street hustler. It's negative. Dude is hustling people out of their money.
Right.
Negative to positive. I consider myself to be a hustler in the negative to positive, in that I go to work as a bartender. I invest my money into an iPad. And now this craft that I'm really passionate, I am now, you know, I have a little show where I interview other people in my community. And now I'm hustling coffee mugs out of something that I like hustling in that this is something that I made. It's you can grab it, you know what I mean? Like it's a thing I created.
It's tangible.
It's tangible. There's the word. It's tangible. Like I created it. There's value to it because I give it value. Because I did it with integrity. I worked my ass off for, you know, to create this, to learn how to create it. So I hustled over 200 coffee mugs, but out of hard work, right? So we could say I hustled them, but I didn't hustle people out of their money for something that they didn't get back.
Sure.
I hustle my time. You know, I pull myself up by the bootstraps, and I was like, I'm learning this thing. It's just slang, you know, how we use, and words are important, right? Because words have meaning.
Words are important.
Words are important, but we can take power away from words, and we can also give power to words.
I think that, you know, illustrates yet another point as how we view like the total outcome of our choices. It's easy just to say hustle means one thing or it can mean another. And I think that disparity of thought is why we have, let me rephrase this so I don't piss a bunch of people off, but that is why we have a huge disparity of income, of quote unquote success. You know, success to me in my 40s is different than what it meant when I was 20. You know, I was you know, interested in different things. And that will change, but you know, some people, maybe, you know, some tycoon that's got billions, the only metric of success is more money. Is that bad? No, I don't think it's bad, but
Sure.
it is if you're having to like commit corrupt acts to get it. I mean, I'm not suggesting everybody that's wealthy commits corrupt act. That's not what I'm saying, but
Right.
but the way we
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's like Earl Nightingale. He said, to quote Earl Nightingale, said, "Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal."
I like that.
So, right? And then he goes on to say, you know, the man that pumps gas at the gas station, if he's happy because that's what he wanted to do, he is successful. The teacher who loves to teach children and goes to work every day, excited to get into that classroom, that is a successful person. It is the progressive, that's the word. We have to continuously evolve and progress in the thing that we want to do is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It starts with an ideal, what I want to do, and my work towards it. It will become reality if I work towards a worthy ideal.
I think that brings up another point, is that we as a society attach value to what we as a society think is success. So unless Joel grows up to become a lawyer or a dentist, he's not successful. Well, who the said that? And why do I give a shit what he or she says? And that, I mean, that also brings up the point that we were talking about being with young people. You know, I don't want you to pump gas, kid. I've done this my whole life. I want something better for you. But Dad, I want to pump gas like you. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. I always told my kids, whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody and makes you happy. That's all I care about. And
that's it.
As long as you're a dentist or a lawyer. I'm just kidding. I think that's another one of these societal things that government. I was involved in some stuff with our state government a number of years ago where we were working. You're talking about welding programs. Well, in America, we got rid of all these trade programs because you got to be a doctor or a dentist. And then where does all that, like, our country was a manufacturing powerhouse from World War I on. And then, of course, World War II spurred it to, greatness. That's what made us what we are now. And we're on the decline because, well, I don't know how to weld. I don't know how to run a plastic injection molding machine. I don't know how to build pallets or whatever it is. So all that stuff's outsourced. And then we, the people, complain there's no jobs. Well, I don't want to pump gas, though. I don't want to weld. I don't want to do these menial jobs, whatever they may be. And I'm just saying menial because that's what we, the people, decided that they were. I'm preaching now.
Right. No, you're fine. Craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Right. There's honor, integrity in that. And you're right. Our country excelled during that period because of the craftsmanship. You know how important it is when we buy something that says made in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a thing to that, right? Some people should probably really think and study why that's important. Not only economically, but the spirit of craftsmanship, things that are being built still from scratch, the techniques of it, the history of a thing. Welding is a phenomenal craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere. Look around.
Yeah.
I don't know any welders currently. I do not know any welders, friends or otherwise.
My uncle's on like his 40th year as a high-end welder, like the stuff you were talking about. I've got another friend named Chet that actually welded my wife and I this beautiful fireplace grate. You'd appreciate it. It weighs like 200 pounds. It's 1.25" bar stock, because fireplace grates, where you live, you guys don't burn fires. We burn cords of wood. So like a regular cheap cast iron grate burns up after a season. So I said, make me one that won't burn. He pulls in the driveway and he's like, help me. I'm like, get it yourself. And he's like, no, you got to help me. It's 1.25" bar stock, like this big. It's 150 or 200 pounds. Anyway. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's a bit of hypocrisy from a society when we talk about like, yeah, there's no jobs, or corporate greed. I hate when people talk about corporate greed, because corporations are trying to make money for their shareholders. The shareholders are just people like you and I that go on our little apps on our phone and we buy 20 stocks in Apple or whatever, and we want to make a few pennies. And then those companies go to Mexico and Korea and China and all these companies where there's cheaper labor and get the shit made cheaper so that they can make more profits. And also so that we can go to freaking Walmart and Target and fill carts up with garbage ass stuff.
Exactly. Where does all that stuff go, by the way? I go to Ross and whatever, TJ Maxx, like everybody else does. And I'm like, all this crap, especially when you're heading towards the checkout, all those things in that little, I'm like, where does all this crap go when nobody buys it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say something in terms of the corporate greed thing, not to go down that rabbit hole too much, but again, being able to be a shareholder buying stocks, our curriculum, schools, studies, our youth, are we teaching them how to invest, how to download the app? Can they learn it on their own? Absolutely. Can they go on YouTube and learn a tutorial on all these apps that you can do whatever little,
Great
put
point.
$10 here, you know what I mean? But our curriculum is the same since I don't even know when.
Yeah, imagine if like 20 years ago, if you and I, and that was not something that I was taught, not about apps, but and imagine if we knew how to like just basic investment strategies. I mean, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm.
Right. So those are very.
Whose fault is that? It's not the government's fault. It's you. You're the dad. It's the mom. It's me. It's not my mayor's fault or my president's fault. President's job's not to teach your school kids how to invest their money.
Right. But what I'm saying is, yes, there's a point to that. But how do I say this? The people that we elect, right, in government, local, obviously, and above that, our presidents, etc. Yeah, sure. They're very disconnected to what our kids are taught. But as a country, don't we think that on the local level there should be an investment in changing the curriculum, getting incredible minds together? And
how many of your friends are running for school board?
None.
That's my point. So people and I've helped run people for school board. I got a good buddy of mine's on the school board here. A couple friends of mine are on the school board here. It's not fun. You're not getting paid to go sit in boring ass meetings to talk about how many more millions of dollars you need. So people don't want to do it. But my point wasn't that it's not important. It's that electeds are representatives. They're not leaders. They're there to represent the will of the people. So if that's what people want, if they don't want their kids learning that shit, this is why I'm saying like about the equality. It does come down to, hey, if you care about your kids, don't wait for government or anything else. Or if you were born with on the shit end of the equation, you can complain about it. You're going to be dead before you change something. So go start hustling. Start making coffee.
Yeah, for a negative to a positive, for sure. But again, however, with our democracy and our process of being able to elect our leaders or our representatives based on policy, we also, obviously, it's our civic duty to do our part to elect those who have policy in place that aligns with the progressiveness. That's not party affiliation. That's the definition of the word. We need to progress as a country. What are the things that are going to allow us to grow? Everyone.
So what are you suggesting, I guess, is my point.
Again, I suggest that we really pay attention to ideas that, although we may not understand, we should look into them. We should study them. We should study what other places, other countries are doing in terms of applying ideas that help the people grow. And it starts in
education. What country would you look for ideas on
education?
Sure.
Education. All right, Finland has a great educational system starting from scratch. Mind you, to the listeners, I'm not talking about socialism. Not even a hint of that. What I'm saying is, us as our country, as people, do we not have a duty to study things that are forward thinking that can help us continue to elevate the greatest country in the world? Are we not able to apply things that allow us, our children, to develop skills that will in turn develop leaders and even better functional members of society? That has nothing to do with socialism.
I think that all of that starts at the kitchen table, man.
And that's fine. Of course, we do that. I'm not a parent, but of course we could do that as people, an uncle, a godfather. For those of you that are parents, we could do that at home. Of course, it starts there. But our children also spend a lot of time in school,
which I think is a problem, personally.
Sure. Look, there's an idea right there.
Well, look at what the product that we put out the last 50 years is not really working that well. We've decided that we need to spend more to have less, to work more, to be home less, for a house that costs us more than we can afford, so that we can die and get taxed on the money that we leave behind. Like, that sounds pretty freaking broken to me.
It sounds crazy, but
yeah, I don't subscribe.
Right. So you just spoke of an idea that what if we invested study time into that idea that you just mentioned? Does that make us any different than the country that we know fundamentally? Does that change us into a socialist country because we don't want our kids to go to school as often as they do currently? No.
Well, socialism is something completely different than that, though.
I know that, but we have to acknowledge that anything that's different than what's already been in place, people just start throwing words that they don't even understand.
True.
Socialism, communism, and it's like, dude, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. That doesn't even mean that.
That's true.
Right?
That's
right?
True.
So,
yes.
So our community, especially in our gun community, our patriots, our good citizens, all of us, and I don't say that sarcastically. I'm saying that we have to be open to all ideas that can make us better. All the ideas that could make us better, and not just say, oh, because it's coming from this side or from that person, or that we just say no.
The interesting thing about that, it's contextual. What better is. Better to you might be completely different than better to the guy in Bismarck, or the guy in Toledo, or the guy or gal in Dallas.
Yeah, what's funny?
Go ahead.
Right to that point. So I lived in New York City for 15 years. I lived in LA for 10 years. So I as a gun enthusiast, firearm instructor, can't even tell you. Everybody knows what that must have been like, sure. Right? Now I live in Florida. I'm based out of Orlando. My wife and I took a trip up to Pensacola to visit my father-in-law. And as we're driving up there, we're going through all these pockets of towns that we could see off the freeway. And we're like, these folks that live there and never leave those little rural edge areas. It would be extremely hard for them to understand the life of people who live in New York City or any major city, right? So to your point, what's good for some is not necessarily good for others.
Mm-hmm. And that's what happens. That's how we have such division in our political spectrum. My state of Illinois, most of the politics is created by Chicago electeds. Most of our state is completely farmland, rural country. So they're like, I don't give a shit about your anti-crime bills when my town, the worst crime is somebody, rolling through a stop sign or something. And that's
Right.
but that is what happens. Mm-hmm.
Right. So nuance in every conversation, right? In every topic, there's nuance, and people have different experiences. Are we ever going to get it perfect? No.
True.
No, but we should not stop to continue to get better, to reach a point where all things are addressed in a more pros than cons.
I dig it.
And,
I think we just gotta listen to each other, like you said. You just gotta try to understand people. I've got friends, Killer Mike, the rapper. There's tons of stuff I do not agree with. That he, but and he and I just talked about this. The totality of his life is different than the totality of my life, and the things that he's experienced are different than the things I've experienced. And so, like, the things that are important to him are not, it's not that they're unimportant to me, but they're things that maybe I don't even think about because they're not in the purview of my life, and vice versa. So in that, though, freedom being what it is, you said democracy, we're a republic, which means that
yes.
But we do vote through the democratic process. But I think people have forgotten, like, a republic means even if there's 300 million Americans, being a republic, 299.99999 of the people can disagree with me, but I can still be like this because that's a republic. The Constitution right here, this beautiful little sacred book, says I don't have to listen to you. I
have mine right away.
And I'm not suggesting I shouldn't listen to you, but that's the thing that I think we have gotten to the point now where we keep thinking democracy. What does the whole thing? And that is tyranny. When we are allowing the masses to tell us how to think and feel. I was at the barbershop this morning, and we were talking about some new laws, and I said, wow, that sounds like some Jim Crow sounding bullshit. And the barber, old guy, he's like, pretty soon you won't even be allowed to say that because it'll be racist for you to say something that sounds like somebody being racist. And we were chuckling about it, but that is tyranny by the masses. It's mob action, and that's what's happening now. Is where it's gotten
so out of control. Like living in California, I can't even tell you. Nah, I'm glad I'm down here, dude.
Sometimes it's okay to push back. That was my point. That was all I was driving at.
Yeah, of course, man. Look, that's some of the best things in history, that the forward momentum moments were built through a big middle finger.
Yeah.
And being like, nah. It's a big nah.
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 I like it. Hey, man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. We covered all kinds of stuff. Parting words. If the people listening or watching never met you, never got to visit with you, what would you leave them with?
I would leave everyone listening and everyone that I actually, people I met and people I haven't met. Listen, take your time to listen to others. We are all experiencing things at a different rate. However, we are experiencing. And in order for us to continue to coexist and continue to be the best version of ourselves, we must listen to one another. It is okay to disagree, but we have to coexist. And we have to do that by listening to one another.
I dig that, man. I think that is how stuff gets done. I don't have to agree with you, but I respect that you think that way, and it's okay. Like that is the nuts part about what's happening today. And I have a hunch it always happened. I don't feel that people are different than they once were. We just have different clothes and words. But we say it's okay for you to think different, but then I don't accept you because you think different. You don't worship the same way, or you don't love the same way, or like that's very bizarre. I don't like the music that you listen to. I don't like it. I like you.
Listen, I've traveled I've traveled all over the world. Imagine going somewhere and a different part of the world where people are amazing, they're welcoming, they're hospitable. And when they go and they said, we cooked for you. We're going to cook for you. We want to invite you. Come break bread with us.
Mm-hmm.
We thank you for being here and what you've done for our youth. And then you get to that home. This is a very small example. And then when you get to their home, you have to take your shoes off to go in their home, because it's in their culture. It's how they operate. Imagine, it's like my metaphor is, imagine if we just said, nah, keep my shoes on.
Yeah, excuse me?
Yeah, the world outside of us is very different. And we here on this journey, on this land, we are made up of everything that's outside of us. We're all here together. And those same people that have cooked for me warm meals, invited me into their homes, I have broke bread with them. I have learned from them. They have made me better through my journey. Those cultures exist here. We have to coexist together, man. You know, when people travel the world, you see how other people live and what makes them great in how they operate, in their culture, in their principles. They're not too different from us, man. Other people in general, you know.
I dig it.
I believe that humans, people, we are good. We're all good. All of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, people do bad things also, but we are mostly good. I've seen it all over the world, bro. I've been stranded walking around and people have helped me, guide me. I've been all over the world, 3 passports full, and I made it back home safely. It wasn't by my own doing. It took many people for me to be able to get there, experience, and come right back to my family. Come back home safely.
It's cool. I dig that. You know, I'd give you a hug right now if I was there. And you'd take that hug.
My brother Mickey. Hey, man.
Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I appreciate you taking the time. How do people find you? How do they see you? How do they buy your wares? They want to hire you to commission a painting? Sure.
I have 2 Instagram pages is the best way to find me. My breaking graffiti artist page is at Teknyc, Teknyc. And now with my new LLC and this new journey as a firearms instructor, my page there is at Technical Methods, which is the name of my LLC. Spell a little different. You know, you guys, Drew will punch that in up there. Technical, Teknical, methods with a Z. Again, going back to the beginning, is a play on words of my B-boy name and my B-boy crew, Skill Methods.
I like it. Yeah. B-boy Mick Creamy here saying thank you guys for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed the discussion. If you did, share it with your friends. Share it on social media. Try to listen a little better, and don't be dickheads. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com. Hey man, what are you doing in the podcast room, Steve?
I'm writing a national anthem It's going to be at folk festivals for Gunfighter Gun Oil.
Oh.
Let me tell you about Gunfighter Gun Oil. Made in the USA. Gunfighter Gun Oil, 100% synthetic. It's gonna last you, baby. Yeah. Gunfighter Gun Oil is the best I've ever seen. It's gonna make you get everything that you've ever seen. Oh, baby, I love me some Gunfighter Gun Oil. Yeah. Oh, Gunfighter Gun Oil. Gunfighter.
Gonna get my lighter out. I don't have it.
It wasn't even Bob Dylan. It was like a love story.